Hi, this is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. Today is Saturday, September 13th, 2025, and I'd just like to touch on the whole issue of kids resolving their problems with shootings. And I think this is something which we need to look at as a society, as a country. It's amazing how many shootings go on in the whole country, probably every day. And if you take a look at every year, the numbers are astounding. I really can't, I'm so totally amazed at how this continues to happen, how nothing is really done to resolve the societal problem that we have that generates all these extreme measures that are taken for that some people use to try to take out their frustration on society and on others. Sometimes people they don't even know, and so. But I have to say first off that when I grew up in northern Minnesota, most of the kids in my area had some form of firearm. Um, I grew up and I had a 410 when I was 10 years old, and we used that for partridge hunting, um, and then later on we had duck hunting. 410 doesn't do too much, but later on I got a 20 gauge at 14 years old, and I had a 30-30 for deer hunting. And since then, I've sold off all my weapons. I have a lot of ringing in my ear that comes from, when you're shooting, you have that discharge, and it creates a loud bang, and eventually will affect your hearing. So I decided, yeah, I don't think I need that anymore. Um, but anyway, when I was growing up, all the kids in the neighborhood had something. They had a shotgun for hunting. And of course, we lived in the north, and there was wolves, there were bears, um, there were all kinds of critters, and so there was no lack of reason for people to have, some firearm in some place to take care of, some critter problem. But anyway, uh, now uh, these guns are proliferated in society, and a lot of the young people they decide that this is their way to resolve some issue that they have. And we need to take a look at this whole problem as a society and figure out what we're going to do. But I think the first place we need to look is in our schools. If we look at our high schools, many of them have been consolidated into these mega schools to, combine resources. But we've created these mega schools. We fill them with hundreds or thousands of kids, and so many kids are lost in the shuffle, are lost in the system. Their personal progression uh, can be stunted because of bullying and mistreatment, because they weren't given adequate attention. So we have these mega schools, the classrooms with 30, 40 kids, and each kid needs attention. They need personalized attention, and things can happen during those years in school which push them off in a path which they're not able to recover from once they get out of school. And so our high schools, they're just recipes for disaster, societal disaster, recipes for poverty, because the kids who graduate from high school, they're no more ready to have a successful career than they were before they started high school. Basically, high schools do nothing for the kids. It gives them some skills as far as English and math, but I mean the whole purpose of that is to so that the kids pass all these test scores. And why are they trying to pass all these test scores and get high scores? Because the principal, the vice principal, the supervisor, you know what? they want a higher salary. You know, their salary is going up and up and up. They want to be promoted. They want to go up the chain, and the kids are their recipe for, you know, moving up the chain. So, um, you know, the kids, they're just numbers. You know, they're just numbers. They're just test scores, basically. There's nothing important about the personal progression of each student. And then you fill these schools with hundreds or thousands of kids, and there's dozens who are going to get lost in the shuffle, who are ignored, who are pushed off to the side, who are, you know, verbally mistreated either by their peers or by their teachers. There's no system in place to get those kids back on track, to get them off that path that they're on, that only leads to, you know, greater and greater extreme measures, which they will later on carry out in society. And so I think as a society, we need to take a look at um, at at what we're doing, because this whole system, this whole, you know, elementary school, junior high, high school are they're not serving, you know, they're good for a small core of kids who have really solid families and have really good social skills, and who, you know, who fit in well with this kind of environment. But the kids who are on the perimeter of all these social groups, who are, you know, they're not talked to in the cafeteria. They have a few friends, but the friends, they're, you know, they have a few friends for one school year, and then they get transferred, or the kids move, and then they're all alone by themselves. And so we need to take a deeper look into society, into what we're doing. This is not a formula going forward. I mentioned in another video about the high schools, about um, you know, what's wrong with this whole picture. We, you know, this whole high school system is a recipe for disaster, because first, once they graduate, they're not ready for, you know, to carry on any career. You can think about all the companies right now, all the tech companies that are hiring, and they don't have people in this country to fill that job. Why? Because the schools aren't preparing them to carry out the jobs that are right now open and offer high salaries. So they need to look off into other countries to fill the positions. And so there's all this problem of, you know, visas and work visas, and how they're going to work it out. And then, you know, limiting uh, people who come in from, you know, India or China or some other place. And so all these companies who can't find, you know, workers um, who fill their needs in the United States, and then they can't find them, or not able to get their visa process. So that's all kinds of that's other problem. But the basic point is here that um, if the schools actually were able to prepare the kids for the work that is needed now and paying high salaries, they could do that, but they don't. And like I say, the funding of the schools is all about test scores, and these test scores, this obsession with test scores is killing our youth, and killing their futures, because all it's doing is just checking boxes, and it doesn't do anything for them. And then you have dozens of kids who are isolated, who don't have friends, no one's talking to them. Uh, they're looked at kind of funny, and they don't feel happy, they don't feel welcome, and they have to go every day to these schools, and it just becomes like a growing thing. It continues to grow and mushroom out, and then they graduate and they're just pushed off into society, and all those problems that they had are never resolved, and eventually they come back, you know, to hurt us. So anyway, I think, you know, the fact that there are guns, that has nothing to do with it, really. In my personal experience, my point of view, like I said, I grew up in northern Minnesota. Everyone had any number of, you know, pistols, shotguns, rifles, but the people weren't resolving their, you know, societal problems using firearms. But they are there. They're plenty in a lot of people's homes, and the kids who have been isolated and mistreated in their schools, and they're not, and they get off on this path. They eventually only see a few roads for them forward, and they're all bad. And so we need to fix this problem in our society. And I think what we need to do is wipe the chalkboard clean with the high schools. We need to start over, um, and we need to have smaller schools, more personalized attention, and the schools need to focus on trades, on what can get the kids jobs and get them good paying jobs from the get go. Why do they need to go to college 4 years and be indebted for $200,000 or $300,000 to learn something that they could learn in high school? You could also extend high school, uh, like have a junior high, but incorporate that into the community college. You could incorporate that into the junior and senior years of high school. But we have to rethink this whole issue. And really, there isn't anyone in the education department, and no one in the Trump administration. There was no one in the Biden administration, no one in the Trump administration before him, no one in the Obama administration, no one in the Bush presidency that provided any clear ideas on reforming our school system. It's just kicking the can down the road generation after generation, and there's more shootings, there's more extreme measures, and no one's fixing anything. So, um, what is it going to take for us to fix all these issues, to address them, and to get our kids into, clear, successful paths in life, and help them? Because in the end, if the schools aren't helping our kids, then they're worthless. And I can say that a kid that graduates from high school, what kind of job can they get? Well, they can stock shelves, they can flip burgers. But do they need to go 4 years to high school to stock shelves and flip burgers? No, they don't. So, what's the whole deal? And then the schools are like obsessed with attendance and with tardiness, and little things here and there, but they don't see the big picture. It's all lost. So, I think we need to address this as a society, and but let's not blame firearms. That's not the problem. I can tell you, growing up, plenty of kids had firearms, and nobody used them to resolve their problems. So, we need to stop this whole waste of money for all the high schools. This is worthless. It does nothing for our kids. It just isolates them. And for many kids, they get in a path that they can never recover from. And we're starting to see that here and there. The kid who tried to assassinate President Trump in Pennsylvania, he was awarded for his math skills in school. But yet, after high school, he just got on a path that from which he didn't recover. And this other kid who shot Charlie Kirk, why did he do that? It's just totally bonkers. So, um, if we're going to, especially if we're going to compete as a country with other countries that are getting ahead of us in programming, in math, in science, we need to go back. Like I'm from Minnesota, and I remember the there's a story of you know the Vikings were behind at halftime, and one of the players comes in and takes a chalkboard and breaks it. And I mean, that was the chalkboard. We did to take this whole thing of high schools and what it does and what it means. We need to take that and just wipe it clean, because it does nothing for our youth. If anything, we need to go back to small schools, where there's personalized attention, where kids can be, welcome, and they feel a part of a community, and they can develop in a much better environment. But these mega schools, this is just, pushing us in a path that's unsustainable. So, Anyway, I hope we can make a change, but I mean, the signs have been there for a while and no one's doing anything really. They continue to pour money into increasing test scores in our schools. Well, what does that do for the kids? Especially you graduate from high school, now you can go off and stock shelves. Now you can flip burgers. Okay, no, the job that's paying 300,000 a year in California, at some software company, they're no more they're no more closer to that job at the start of high school than they are at the end. So we need to rethink all what we're doing and try to restart, reboot, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, that's my report for today. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you for joining me. If you like this video, like and share. Please subscribe to support independent journalism. Have a good day. Bye bye.